In the frozen lands of Scandinavia, survival was never easy. Winters were long and merciless. Snow covered the villages for months, and food had to be carefully stored. Families lived in longhouses built of wood and turf, where a single fire provided both warmth and light. Inside, the air was filled with the smell of burning wood, roasted meat, and the sound of storytellers passing down ancient sagas. Life was simple, yet demanding. Every man, woman, and child played their part. While the men hunted, fished, or prepared for voyages, the women managed the farms, tended the animals, and kept the community alive. Children learned early. Boys trained with wooden swords, and girls learned the skills of weaving, cooking, and healing. For the Vikings, every day was a struggle for survival, but also a chance for honor. Environment rose warriors unlike any the world had seen. Vikings were not only skilled in battle, they lived for it. The shield wall was their greatest weapon, a wall of interlocked shields, advancing as one, unbroken and unstoppable. Behind those shields were warriors carrying axes, spears, and swords forged by village blacksmiths. Some warriors entered battle in a trance, known as berserkers, fighting with terrifying fury, as if possessed by the gods themselves. Enemies across Europe trembled at the sight of their sails on the horizon. Monasteries, villages, and even fortified towns fell before their might. To fight for a Viking was not only about survival or conquest, it was about honor, reputation, and the promise of reaching Valhalla, the great hall of Odin, where the bravest warriors would feast for eternity. The sea was both enemy and ally to the Vikings. It was a barrier that kept them isolated, but also a path that carried them to distant worlds. Their greatest creation was the longship. Sleek, narrow, and fast, it was a marvel of engineering for its time. With shallow hulls, these ships could cross oceans, yet also travel up rivers, striking deep into enemy lands where no one expected them. The dragon-headed prows were not only decorations, but symbols of power meant to terrify those who saw them approaching. A single longship could carry dozens of warriors, supplies, and treasures. On the open sea, rowers would work in perfect rhythm, their oars slicing through waves as the wind filled the sails. The longship was more than a vessel. It was freedom, power, and fear combined. With it, the Vikings expanded far beyond their homeland. Armed with their ships and their courage, the Vikings launched raids that shook Europe to its core. In 793, the monastery of Lindisfarne in England was attacked, the beginning of the Viking Age in history. The shock spread across Christendom. From the British Isles to the coasts of France and Spain, no shore was safe. But the Vikings were not only raiders, they were also settlers. They carved out kingdoms in Ireland, England, and Normandy. In the east, they followed the rivers deep into Russia, founding trade routes that reached the Byzantine Empire. Some became mercenaries in the emperor's own elite guard, the feared Varangian Guard. Others traveled even further, to the deserts of Arabia, trading furs, amber, and slaves for silver, silk, and spices. The world of the Vikings was not confined to Scandinavia. It stretched across continents. The Vikings were among the greatest explorers of their age. They settled in Iceland, where rugged mountains and volcanic lands tested their resilience. From there, they sailed to Greenland, carving homes out of the frozen wilderness. But perhaps their greatest journey was to Finland, the land we now know as North America. Centuries before Columbus, Viking explorers like Leif Erikson set foot on its shores, describing forests, rivers, and fertile lands. Though these settlements were short-lived, they proved the fearless spirit of the Norse. To venture into unknown seas, guided only by stars, sunstones, and instincts, required unmatched courage. For the Vikings, exploration was as important as war. It was proof that their destiny reached far beyond the horizon. By the 11th century, the Viking Age slowly came to an end. Christianity spread through Scandinavia, and kingdoms began to form, bringing new laws and order. Yet the spirit of the Vikings never vanished. Their influence remained in language, culture, and trade. Towns they founded grew into great cities, and their descendants became kings and rulers across Europe. The legacy of the Vikings is not only one of war and conquest, but also of courage, exploration, and discovery. Their story is written not only in blood, but in the endless pursuit of adventure. The saga of the Vikings continues to inspire us, a reminder that even the harshest lands can produce people who change the world.